So, what advice would you like to share with our audience, especially for those people who are struggling in their business right now?
You're struggling because you do not know what to do next. So look at what's holding you back and go and get the skills. Because turning up the next day and expecting things to just change magically is never going to happen.
Every success has a story. Every breakthrough has a struggle. Every podcast conversation has an opportunity. Behind the Wind podcast, hosted by Ange Castro, powered by Behind the Wind team, podcast management that turns guests into opportunities.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Behind the Wind podcast. I'm your host, Ange Castro, and for today's guest, we have Peter Boolkah. Peter, thank you so much for joining me and welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me today.
I am so excited to learn about your business and learn all the things behind your wins. So, for my very first question, what is your business exactly and how is it helping other people?
So I have a number of businesses. So
Mm,
this particular business perhaps lent me to very much or develop the book was based out my coaching business. So I've been a coach now for 21 years, believe it or not.
wow.
So it's been a long time since I've been coaching. And very much what was my inspiration behind the book was the fact that working with founders, seeing the patterns that, and I would say 99% of them go through. And it isn't just in one country or one continent. It seems to be everywhere in the world, people follow the same patterns. So for me, it was all about, okay, why do these patterns actually exist? But more importantly, what do we need to do to break those patterns?
Okay. Thank you for answering that. I would like to dive deeper. So, you mentioned about patterns and break these patterns. Can you please elaborate that part?
Okay. So when people start a business, it's a
Mhm.
pattern. Now let me give you some statistics. So in the UK, there's approximately 5.4 million small to medium sized privately owned businesses, of which 4.2 million of them are solopreneurs. So
Mhm.
when a solopreneur starts a business, and some businesses start as the partnerships, but that's few or far between. It's mainly one person starting up a business. What do they need to do? They need to work damn hard. 'Cause starting a business is not easy. So it's long
Yeah.
hours, a lot of energy, enthusiasm, passion, sacrifice. From day one, the pattern is this. Because they are head of sales, head of marketing, head of finance, head of HR, head of operations, head of delivery, head of everything, they train the business from day one to be dependent on them. And therefore, guess what they create? The habit of dependency. And I'm sure you've seen that.
Yeah, I do. So, just to clarify as well, you mentioned about you're doing a coaching business and you have a book. So, basically, those are two different kind of business. Like, I know you mentioned you do several, but those are the primary two businesses. Am I right?
The, yeah, no, the book came off the back of the coaching.
Oh,
So it was the coaching that inspired the book. And
mm.
actually, this is the first of seven books.
Oh, you have seven books already?
We will
Wow.
have seven books. We will. So this manuscript for the second book has just gone into first draft final. And all I'm doing is I'm painting an entire picture of all the different facets of a business and actually why they work and why they don't work. So eventually it'll be an encyclopedia on business.
Mm. I am seeing book at your back. Your
That's
business
one.
suck. Is that like
Yep.
the last book or the first
Now
book?
this is the one I've just released. So this is the first
Oh,
of seven. So we're at the
okay.
beginning of the journey.
Mm, I see. Um, can you also share with us what's the reason behind doing the coaching business? Like there are a lot of businesses. But why
Do
coaching?
you know, if I would lie to you if I said it was something that was massively deliberate at the time. I'd been in one corporate job for 15 years, left McDonald's, bought a business. It wasn't really what I enjoyed. Left the business and was looking for the next thing to do. And actually, I got approached at the time by a coaching franchise, and I wasn't going to do it. I was in due diligence, was checking it out. And then sometimes do you believe in fate? And sometimes the right person comes into your life for the right reason.
Okay.
Well, in this instance, the final appointment I had was with a franchise partner, and he was what I needed at the time. So I ended up becoming a coach. Originally, it was to replace my income, of course. I'm not going to lie. I needed to make money and pay bills. But then I decided to turn a career into it. And when I made the choice to change to turn it into a career, that's when my viewpoint on, okay, well, am I going to make this totally was different.
Okay. Thank you for sharing that. I love that you started as a corporate worker because a lot of people could relate that. A lot of, especially business owners, I am sure that a lot of business owners are really started as a like working in the corporate and then transition to doing a business. So, what is one thing that you think is very fulfilling in what you're doing as a coach versus being in the corporate?
Well, that's really easy to answer. When you were part of a corporate, it was very soulless. It
Sorry,
wasn't.
what is sorry, what?
Soul. It was soulless. It had no soul to it.
Oh,
You
okay, got it.
literally were helping people make a lot of money, and they were damn
Mhm,
ungrateful for it. Whereas actually, when you're working with business owners, you're helping change their lives. I mean, 'cause you said when you go into business, you don't go into business and think, yeah, I want to have a bad life. You want to have a great life. And because entrepreneurs don't learn how to run businesses, they just have an idea to start with it. They get lost along the way. And when
mhm.
you can help them actually refine their passion for their business and help them massively succeed, to me, that is so important.
Thank you. I actually can relate when you said if you're in the corporate, like there's no soul. And I feel like so before I started my freelancing business, I was in the BPO industry and I feel like I'm just doing the job because I need to do it to get paid. Versus when I started my own business, it's so fulfilling, especially when you are giving jobs to other people because of the business that you do. And another thing is that I'm doing it because it is aligned with my passion. So I totally agree with that term that you said, no soul in the corporate. So thank you for sharing. Now, doing the coaching business for 21 years, am I right? Am I
Yeah.
getting it right? 21 years. What is the biggest struggle, or or should I say, unforgettable struggle that you have experienced in running coaching business
For the coach or for the businesses that I look after?
as a coach?
Oh, the biggest one is always going to be, and the one I see with all that most coaches struggle with, and that's predictable lead flow. So it's actually getting the working consistently.
Hmm.
I think that, but I don't think that's just for coaching. I think the majority of that is for most service providers, unless as a service provider, you are doing something that is what I would call a must, i.e. accountancy.
Hmm.
Now, and when you look at accountancy, that isn't a service, that isn't a like to do service. That is mandatory. You have to submit your statutory accounts every single year. Therefore, you don't have a choice in it. So those kind of service providers, no problem.
Hmm.
But things like when you're talking about coaching, consulting, probably when you're looking at your business VA, people see it as an add-on. not necessarily as a
Yeah,
core. And as soon as it becomes an add-on, not a core, that then makes lead flow unpredictable.
yeah, I got it. And considering that kind of struggle, we both know that running a business is not easy. You mentioned that at first earlier that it's hard to do business. Was
Yep.
there a point in your life when you are already doing the coaching business that you wanted to go back to the corporate?
Yeah, first 3 years were hell. For the first
Mm-hmm.
3 years, I hated it. I
Mm-hmm.
liked the coaching, but I hated the struggle either side and the lack of consistency. And I was actually on Headhunters books for 3 years until I decided I needed to make the decision. What was I going to commit to? And that's when I made the choice. But yeah, but my first 3 years, I would lie to say that I was enjoying it. I wasn't.
Which is normal actually. For most
Yeah.
businesses, first few years is really like struggling. It's hard. And one of the struggles is that, of course, getting customers. And you said inconsistency. Like you're not getting consistent customers. So that's normal, and I'm sure a lot of people or business owners can relate. Now, given that kind of struggle, you never gave up and you continue doing the business, and here
Mhm.
you are still running the business. So, what kept you going? What's the strongest why
I
behind
think
your, yeah,
I think the
go ahead.
big one was the financial. I had commitments, and therefore I had to honor those commitments. And sometimes it's easier to look at other things with rose-tinted glasses and believe that the grass is greener,
Mhm.
whereas I believe that God's best gift is the feedback loop. So when things aren't working, it's not because they can't work, it's because we haven't learned how to make them work. So what
Yeah.
skills do we need to have in order to learn so we can succeed? And I've rebuilt this business now 3 times. I mean, when you look at the crash of 08, 09, lost 70% of the business overnight. Thank you,
Mhm.
Lehman Brothers. Very kind of you. Then 2020 lockdown, again, lost about 80% of the business. And then a couple of years ago, again, lost a big portion of the business due to the instability in the UK economic market. So each time that we go through these cycles, because last 12 months in the UK have been horrific from an economic standpoint. But each time you get faced with these roadblocks, you've just got to think, okay, where do we need to pivot and grow again? Because look, service is the same as any other industry.
Yeah, I agree. So, as a business owner, whatever challenges, we have to look for a solution to be able to continue, doing the business. For 21 years of doing your coaching business, what could be the um biggest mistake that you already did or that you made in running that business?
Probably the biggest mistake I ever made was remaining in a partnership for too long. So there was 4 of us in the company,
Uh-huh.
and I probably outgrew them a long time ago, long time before. But I still stayed with them when I should have moved on. And then naturally, when COVID hit, it was a natural point to then move on because we closed down the practice and I went on my own. So that was probably the biggest thing I shouldn't have stayed as long as I did.
So are you saying that partnership is not a good thing if you're gonna do a business?
I think you've got to understand that probably partnerships never start off as being equal.
Mm-hmm.
So there's always a need. I mean, it's never ever 50-50 equality. Never. You might have 50-50 on paper, but it doesn't mean that, or whatever this percentage is, but it doesn't mean that you're doing the same work or you're on the same journey. And I think as people change and grow and develop in different ways, Then sometimes instead of growing together, they grow apart. And I think in my instance, I grew apart.
Okay. So you started as a like the business as partnership and then you went to being a solo business
Yep.
owner. When you did solo kind of business, were you could you say you have achieved a certain level of success that you aim for the business?
Yeah, because I had the team, I took the team with me. So a lot of the
Okay.
team that were with me, part of the partnership, are with me now. So I've had people that work for me now for 17 years.
Okay. So you have achieved a certain level of success. If I may ask, how do you define success?
See, it's a really good question. And I would probably define it not by monetary terms, by impact. So I look at how many people I'm able to positively influence. And that's a difficult one. And that's why I wrote the book. Because at coaching, I can only reach so many people.
Mm-hmm.
Through the book, I can reach so many more.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. If you're gonna put your book on Amazon, millions of people could order, right? So that
And you
makes
use that
sense.
word, could
Mm,
order.
good. Mm-hmm.
Could. And the reason I say the word could is a lot of people have got the opportunity to change. Very few do.
Mm. So, from struggling to achieving a certain level of success, I know that getting out from partnership to becoming a solo, that's one, right? But aside from that, how did you turn things around from not from struggling to being successful? Was there like a very specific process that you did? Because that process is something that you could share to our audience so they could also implement it to their own businesses.
Number of different things. Number one, I had to change who I was and what I wanted.
Hmm.
I think that's really important. So the identity keeps evolving. But secondly, I learned to become very good at marketing.
I love that marketing. When you do business, it's very important that you do have a what do you call this? A marketing that's really working. Because if
Yeah.
you don't know how to market your business, you're not gonna get customers. And if you don't have customers or clients, you don't have a business.
Yep.
Um,
That's so true.
would you like to share what kind of marketing you did?
Yeah, look, I've got YouTube channel, podcast,
Mm, yeah,
website. I mean, look, majority of my stuff comes through my website now.
got it.
It comes
And
through
I
my
love.
website, and it
Mm,
only comes through my website because I've got very good sort of team that work on it. And a lot of it now is ChatGPT because their
yeah,
conversations, yeah, it's ChatGPT that's huge.
I love when you mention ChatGPT because you know if you don't have, so this would be a message to business owners who are listening. If you guys don't have a marketing strategy that's working yet, you could always ask, or you could use ChatGPT, ask questions. You know, ChatGPT could be your best virtual assistant when when it comes to like giving you strategies, especially marketing strategy. And I also love that you mentioned podcast. Podcast, I really, for me, it's like you advertising yourself, your services in the audience of the podcasters, especially if you get to speak to a podcaster with a lot of viewers. That is really helpful because I just realized that um, before, like, I don't know the years, but before podcasting become popular, business owners would pay a lot. just to get advertised on television, right? But these days you can present your service, your business for free. I know there are podcasters who are charging for
Yep.
for guest appearance, but there are also a lot of podcasters who, don't charge. And that is really a great kind of visibility that a business owners can do. And I'm not really encouraging the business owners to also speak to podcasts, but if you're not afraid of speaking, podcasting is really like speaking as a guest in some podcast shows would really help. Is there anything that you'd like to add about
Yeah.
podcasting?
Yeah, the only thing I'd also say is a lot of people do not like speaking, you're right. But actually, if you want your business to grow and you really want to develop as an entrepreneur, then speaking has to be a skill that you need to learn.
Yeah, I agree. I
And
agree.
it doesn't come natural to most people, absolutely.
Yeah,
But look, the world of marketing is changing. You look at it now, I don't think that you can be highly effective in marketing without actually video today. You need video.
I
And
totally agree.
a lot of people are using AI like Synthesia and stuff like that to clone themselves.
Yeah.
Okay, you can clone yourself. But I promise you one thing, people will notice and they'll think it's shit. Because actually with cloning yourself, they don't get all the emotional nuances that only you can deliver when you're talking a message.
I totally agree. I'm seeing a lot of people are using AI to be able to produce videos. I'm not saying it's not good, but it's still different if you're gonna be speaking, personally, because that has emotion compared to AI, right? Now, doing the business, what is the biggest lesson that you have learned that you'd also like to share to our audience?
I think the biggest lesson is that make sure that whatever you do in business is that you surround yourself with good people. Always make sure you've got a great coach or mentor in your corner. Absolutely critical.
I agree.
Because to do a business on your own in isolation slows
Mm,
things down, but can also be very dangerous. So I will always say, have the right people around you that will build you, not break you.
I agree. Having great people or being surrounded with great people, especially when you're doing business, is like having a great support system.
It is.
So, yeah. So, what advice would you like to share with our audience, especially for those people who are struggling in their business right now? If there's just one top advice, what it is?
It's simple. Identify where you're struggling,
Mm-hmm.
why you're struggling, and what you need to learn to break out of that vicious doom loop. You're struggling because you do not know what to do next. So look at what's holding you back and go and get the skills. Because turning
Yes.
up the next day and expecting things to just change magically is never going to happen. If you want things to change, you need to be the change. And I always remember one of the sayings that stood out for me was when people say that God created man in his image.
Mm-hmm.
And if that is true of God, then you created the business in your image. So if you want your business to change, you have to be the change.
Yeah, I love that. And if there is one question that podcasters haven't asked you yet, what would that be?
Every single question has been answered.
Okay.
But I do get asked what's my favorite quote.
Mm-hmm.
And my favorite quote is the more you learn, the more you earn.
Oh,
2004 marked the end of the industrial age. We are now in the knowledge worker age. Pay attention, knowledge worker age. If you learn, you have knowledge. If you have knowledge, you have power. If you know what to do with it, you'll make money.
I love that. The more you learn, the more you earn. Makes sense because the more knowledge you have and the more you like convert that knowledge into something, like it could be services, it could be business or whatever that could help other people, then of course those people, especially of course if that kind of knowledge is helping the problem of the target audience, then of course they're gonna be paying you. So you're helping their problem, and in return, you are earning money. So makes sense. And I love when you said knowledge is power. It's very true. And all right, so what is the best way for our listeners to connect with you, Peter?
Just type my name into Google.
Love that.
Just type my name into Google, then you can follow me on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, podcast, website. You choose what works for you. We're all different.
I love that answer. Okay, before we wrap up, I'd like to share that apart from inspiring the audience through each guest story, I started this podcast to also serve as a bridge to new opportunities because I truly believe that every podcast conversation could lead someone to an opportunity. And having said that, I'd like to ask if you're hiring any kind of virtual assistant help that could support your business admin tasks.
Now you're asking me?
Yes,
Add,
I'm asking you if
add,
you're hiring.
yeah, not at the moment. I've got 32 people working for me.
Oh, wow. 32 people? Wow. Like that's a big team already.
Yeah, but we do it
So,
over the multiple businesses.
right now you're not hiring, but do you think you're gonna hire someone in the future?
It depends on the skill set.
Oh,
You see, I
what
never
skill
look at the
set?
person. Well,
Sorry, go ahead.
we hire experts.
Mm-hmm.
So it depends on what the business will need next.
Mm,
So it's very difficult for me to say, yeah, we're going to be hiring because we
okay.
don't know yet what the skill set is we're trying to fill.
Mm. When you say skill set, can you like give us an idea of what kind of skill set are you looking
Well,
for?
we've got multiple in the business. So in the marketing agency, we've got SEO specialists.
Ah,
We've got web developers. Within
okay.
the publishing team, we've got in-house editor. We've got marketing people on social and everything. We've got content writers.
Mm.
So we always look at when as the business grows, we don't know what we're going to need next.
All right. Thank you for that. And that's my last question. And thank you so much, Peter, for the wonderful conversation. And thank you so much again for joining me. And to everyone who's tuning in, thank you so much for your time. I hope you all get inspired, and I will see you on the next episode.
Awesome.